In this week's channel message from the angels, they are trying to help us to understand and acknowledge that we are in a liminal state, that we are in the process of unraveling everything that was, and we are stepping into a more dharmic way of being. And they talk about how that process is unfurling and how we are to move through it. So welcome back to my channel, you guys. And for those of you who are new here, my name is Ann Tucker. I am a trance channel. And that means that I channel from the angelic realm. I do that by going into a deep meditative state. And from there, I raise my awareness up as high as I can go. And then I stretch a little higher, I connect, and then they come through. And I do that verbally, and I transcribe it, and I share it here with you guys on YouTube. And as I was saying, so this week's message, the angels have been talking for a long time about how we are moving away from our karma, that part of this ascension process means that the Earth School is no longer going to be about karmic understanding, karmic learning, that it is shifting. And that necessarily means, and this was an aha moment for me, there's several aha moments actually, as we're breaking this apart and looking at this message more carefully. But the very process by which we are supposed to move through, or by the process that we are moving through, there's no supposed to, but the way that it's happening in terms of us moving through this liminal state of things falling apart and us then freeing up that energy to put it into this new awakening, that the way that is happening is through a dharmic process where we don't know how to do it, where we just allow it to move through us, through this process of flow and connection through our higher selves. So anyways, fascinating message. The format this week is, as I've been doing, I will read you the full message first, and then after that, I will break it down paragraph by paragraph, and we go in deeper and get a lot more meaning. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoy the message. So, all right, if you guys are ready, we will dive into the message. All right, here it is. They say, the knowing ways of your forebearers are dwindling now, and beneath you rises a constituency that is ready for helping, a new branching of you. A destiny pulls your focus, a new unveiling of what you will be. And the resources that are drawn to you in this time forming will be unveiled. It is not as you are or have been. It is not the continuing of your internal state of healing. It is not the bridging and remuneration of the histories that you possess. What is forming the lifeblood of your heritage? These are falling, dwindling in their capacity to inform you. It is the release of this and the acceptance of a new way, a new method of bearing witness to your own journey. How is it to process on earth what it is to be living? How is it to put into context for comprehension and understanding? It has always been done through historical measures, through the comparison and juxtaposition to what has passed in your own heritage as well as in the full encumbrance of humanity, to see yourselves in the context and fruition of worldly bias. These things lose their tendency to impress. They become less important, less voluble and resounding in their chorus of meaning. They lose their impression on your awareness. You feel the self toiling to make shift some new understanding, to feel the self reaching. There is no other context at present. Thus you are standing in the barren mixture of the nothingness that needs forming, in the histories that digress from your purpose. We say in this liminal state made for journeying, in this state of beginning, you are forming what is next. You are holding within the self the opportunity to grow a context from your own being, to be the self that will inform the world and its new dawning. What hold you in this power of understanding? What hold you to draw forward? What will now be present in your mind as the earth herself is turning? How will you guide your focus for this journey? Bringing forward what it calls you now from the heart space. Draw into your bodies the truth of who you are, your presence. Make this known to one another. Lean into the fruition of yourselves. Let this be the template that rises to guide humanity. Be not that one who conspires to level down into the muck of yesteryear. Be instead the one who strives to discern, through their own understanding, a new template that dawns for the yearning of the betterment of humanity. who reaches into the beyond next moment and distills their own joyful purpose to bring into each other their heart's pattern for learning. How to dawn a new civilization for humanity, built upon the spores of love that transfer between one another, built upon the conveyance of your offering, of your gifting, of what is given unto you before entering and what you are carrying to share with others. To build this, we wish to bring you into harmony with yourselves as you are opening, to let this liminal state do its business of ridding you of the flavors of what you have become used to, and to let the self feel in this open state of readiness the preparation, the instilling in your mind space of new potential. Recognize where you are as humanity, to see this state as one of grace, as one of doing, in the action of becoming that which will be. Let the unwinding happen. Recognize in this friction is created a potent force for upleveling humanity. There is the action of the undoing, which powers the new now. It must present a force of reaction, which is then utilized for the conquering of the old self, the dwindling of that old habit, and the instilling in your breast a hopeful state, a loving state, a caring state for one another. This energy transfer, it is a process we are working, we are watching, we are unearthing for yourselves. This juncture for humanity represents a transfer of your energy from that which was to which you were beholden in the bodies, in the histories, in the comprehension, the solar plexus of your figure, of all things you have known. The transfer of this energy of pleasing the self by matching and comparing to your history. And instead, with the unraveling of all this, the creation of a new sort, a new history to unfold forward, a new template for life built upon love. No more strife, only peaceful transfer of energy from one power to another, from one soul who beckons to another who is receptive. The emptying of energy, of refocusing yourselves, this is what you are allowing. This potent space that you are in, acknowledge this. It is an emptiness, a sense of floating, a sense of not knowing the next beginning. A new template is unfolding. Embrace this. Allow the self your discovery, for there is no instruction. There is no reason given. There is no masterful method by which you must conjoin to the new reality. It is the selves who are dawning from within. It is the selves who are instrumental in the creating. Therefore, be. Be and allow yourselves. This mastery, this dawning, let it be yourselves who do the defining through the joyful experience of self-loving. It is this we are informing your own selves, creating harmony within, the balance of your light, the truth of who you are. This you are capturing to let this transfer on to the next new now that is coming. We love you. So that is the message. And you're saying, hello, good morning, and good morning, you guys. You're saying you are in the saddle leading your incumbent line. Yes, and that is how it's been, right? We have been. You're totally right, Mike. We have been made up of our history. And in the saddle leading that line, like we have been sort of the person carrying all the junk of our genetic history, all of our forebears, and we have been sort of marching to that tune, carrying that line and trying to transform that whole line as we go through our own journey. And you're saying, love the new template versus the muck of yesteryear. I know, good word, right? The muck. And you're saying, muck sticks not with me any longer. Love that expression. Me too. So the message as I understand it is helping us to understand that we are in this liminal space right now, that we are in an empty space right now, where we are in the explosion of what used to be, and that in terms of, yes, the power structures, and yes, the earth, but also of ourselves, the explosion of how we have understood ourselves, of the histories that we've carried, of the stories that we've had about ourselves, right? Of all the family quagmire that we are kind of part of that fills us or defines us in some way. So we've been defining ourselves from our history. And they're saying all of that is exploding. And we are in this muck of this, like this empty space, this liminal space. And from the space, we have to define what we're going to be as humanity moving forward. And they're saying that there is no instruction manual. There's no guidance for us because it has to come from us. And so this is kind of getting back to what I was saying as we got started talking today about how whenever we ask for guidance, if we sort of open up without any plan, without any sense of what we want, and we just come in and like, tell me what to want, tell me where I should go, they won't tell us. They won't give us that answer because we are the drivers of the journey. We are the team leaders, right, of this experience. And so it has to come from us. And once we define that, then they fill in with all that support and all that energy. So that is kind of what they're saying here, is that we are in that incredible liminal moment of emptiness and we're allowing the destruction of what was, and the destruction frees up the energy to then move into what we are forming. But we have to define what is forming, and what they're trying to help us do is to have it be defined from this sense of self-love, from the sharing of our gifts that we brought with us, from the way that we interact with each other, from this space of love, right? And that's, if we can define the new template for being from that space, but there's no instruction manual to find it. We have to figure it out. So that's the hard part, right? That's the tough stuff. So let's go into it and start talking about it in paragraph by paragraph, because they do give us hints about how we're supposed to be doing this, right? They talk about it and they give us some direction, but in terms of what it is, what we want, and that's what it comes down to. What do we want? What do we want our lives to be? What do we want it to be human? And we get to define that and create that. So that's the stuff of it. All right. You're saying incredible. The angels are calling me out. Dawning, ready, willing, and able. I love it. Calling me out, Dawn. It's so true. And you're saying into a beautiful shining light, a human being. Yeah. And that is what we want to be moving into and what we are sharing into. So let's read through the paragraph by paragraph and break it apart. All right, they say the knowing ways of your forebearers are dwindling now, and beneath you rises a constituency that is ready for helping. So this is that idea that the past is how we've been defined, and this constituency, which is the supporters, this is what's rising, which is this new opportunity that we have to define ourselves. They say a new branching of you, a destiny pulls your focus, a new unveiling of what you will be. And I love this idea that a destiny pulls your focus. We all came knowing what was going to be happening right now. So there's some part of us that recognizes what's going on. Even if we don't know it consciously, we know what's happening. So it's a destiny. It pulls our focus, right? And that's why I think, by the way, that when we hear truth, it doesn't feel like, sometimes there's those moments that blow our mind where it's like, oh, wow, I never thought about it from that perspective. But the reason it does, the reason it lands so well, is because we knew it already. Is that there's some part of us, our deep soul spark, that knew it. So we feel it. It resonates through the whole body. And that's because truth is something that we already knew. So that's why you can feel truth so easily. You can feel truth. The stuff that isn't true is the stuff that you hear and that shocks and that scares you and that's like, ooh, you know, there's a lot of stuff out there that is designed to create fear. And it doesn't land as truth. It lands as shock value. And so that's one of the ways we can discern our truth, is by feeling into what lands as somewhere deep down you knew it already. And that's the truth. That's your soul speaking, saying, yep, I knew that. I knew that already, right? You're just catching on, but your soul knew it already. And so that's why I said that a destiny pulls your focus, because a destiny, like we all knew this is where we were heading. And so it draws us like a truth that we already knew, right? And they go on to say, a new unveiling of what you will be, and the resources that are drawn to you in this time forming will be unveiled. It is not as you are or have been. It is not the continuing of your internal state of healing. So there's that reference. So they're saying this, what is coming. It's not as we've been, not as the ways that we've known ourselves, all the stuff that we've counted on, all our history, our patterns, our habits, all that stuff that really has given us comfort because it's known. Like we like it because we know it, but it's not always for our highest and best, right? And they say it is not the continuing of your internal state of healing. So that's another reference. They keep talking about how we are moving away from Earth being a karmic school. right? So it's not the continuing of your internal state of healing. That's what we've been focusing on all this time. That's changing. They say it is forming, it is not the bridging and remuneration of the histories that you possess, what is forming the lifeblood of your heritage. These are falling, dwindling in their capacity to inform you. So in other words, they're just not that useful anymore, that they don't apply anymore. So they're falling away because they don't do us any good. They're not going to be able to guide us with where we're going next. So it is the release of this and the acceptance of a new way, a new method of bearing witness to your own journey. So, and that's what we're trying to figure out. How do we understand ourselves in this, what's coming? How do we make sense of it, right? And how do we bear witness to our own journey? So we are here to learn. So how do we do that if the way we've always learned has been through comparing where we are now to our history? Is through compare and contrast. That's what we've always been doing that. And now we're going into a new space where what we have known and how we've been don't apply. They're not useful because the frame of reference is so different. So we have to open up and start to learn in a new way, right? And learn not through comparison of where we've been, through it's really been a really earthly focus. We have to start to figure out how to come into life and to how to feel our way, right? And that I think is the new journey. Not through the knowledge of how things have been and learning our history. It becomes feeling our way. And you're saying absolutely the beauty of the journey. Yes. And then hello, grateful to be able to catch a live. So glad you're here. Welcome. And you're saying faith over fear is in the destruction of what's coming because it's truth. Yes, absolutely. No more being allowed to deny our actual awareness. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you guys are right on. Okay, so they go on, and I think this whole thing about a new method of bearing witness to our own journey, I think is super important because it is not just about, like, a lot of times I think we get caught up in life that it's all about healing and it's all about just kind of struggling through. But there's a big part about where we are the witness to what we're experiencing and informing the rest of humanity, like informing the collective consciousness, helping us grow as a whole. So the bearing witness to our journey is super important. Understanding it, comprehending it, super important. So how do we do that? If all of the context we've ever had doesn't really apply anymore, what do we do now? All right. How is it to process on earth what it is to be living? How is it to put into context for comprehension and understanding? It has always been done through historical measures, through the comparison and juxtaposition to what is past in your own heritage, as well as in the full encumbrance of humanity. So this is just what we're talking about, our own personal history and the history of humanity, of humans that we've experienced, that we know about. To see yourselves in the context and fruition of worldly bias. These things lose their tendency to impress. They become less important, less voluble, and resounding in their chorus of meaning. They lose their impression on your awareness. So in other words, this process of how we've always understood ourselves, it just starts to become and to feel less relevant. So it's not like there's going to be a point where they just like say, oh, no, they're not going to like take it away. It's still there. History's still there. History books are still around. It's just that they're going to start to feel like they don't relate to what we're experiencing. So it's like they just fall away because we don't relate to them anymore. So it's sort of like, have you ever gone back and watched a show, like a movie, that when you were a kid, you thought it was really a great, like super funny movie from 20 years ago? For those of you who are younger, maybe that's not so applicable. But anyways, you know what I mean? Like an old movie that used to be super funny, and you go back and you watch it and you're like, this is super dumb. These jokes are not funny. I can't believe I ever thought this was super funny. And it is like humor is dated. Humor is relevant to a time period. Humor relates because it relates to our current experience. And so as we grow and age and things change, the things we would have laughed at 15 years ago, they're not as funny anymore. Usually that's the case. And so it's kind of like that, where history will be feeling like that, where we'll look back at it and we'll be like, yeah, I can't believe that ever was related to me because I don't feel that anymore. It doesn't speak to me anymore. It doesn't seem to be relevant to what's going on in my life. And Rebecca's tuning in from Lisbon. Hey, Rebecca, I hope your conference is going great. And you're saying, loving this. Fantastic. Mike is laughing. I'm glad. Yeah, it is the truth though. You guys know what I'm talking about.
about the movies. I can't remember the last one I watched that it was like, it was so I think the embarrassing thing is I had told somebody, oh, we should watch that movie. It was so funny. And then we watched it and it was so dated. It was so bad. Oh, well, anyways. Okay, so we go on to the next paragraph. You feel the self toiling to make shift some new understanding. You feel the self reaching. And I love that. Toiling to make shift. So like they turn makeshift into a different usage here. And you feel the self toiling to make shift some new understanding. So it's almost like we are working to understand this new context. And how many times have we heard the word unprecedented has become like the joke of the 2020s, because everything is unprecedented. So this is us toiling to make shift some new understanding of what's been happening. So we keep trying to like carve out some meaning from this, some patterning that we can refer to. You feel the self reaching, like we're reaching for it. How do we comprehend this? There is no other context at present. Thus, you are standing in the barren mixture of the nothingness that needs forming, in the histories that digressed from your purpose. Wow, I love that. Let's read that again. There is no other context at present. Thus, you are standing in the barren mixture of the nothingness that needs forming, in the histories that digressed from your purpose. So I love this because it's like a really, you can almost feel this, that you're standing in this, it's like you're standing in an attic of old junk that you just don't need anymore, trying to stick together some new solution, right? In the barren nothingness of right? And in the histories that digress from your purpose and these old stories that don't apply anymore. So that is where we are. We are in this liminal state where we're kind of surrounded by things falling apart and trying to figure out how do I make something out of this chaos that surrounds me? What do I do with this, right? We say in this liminal state, and liminal means like the state in between. It's like the cocoon state. The caterpillar is in the muck of the cocoon, getting ready to become the butterfly. That cocoon is liminal. It means the space of passage, like a birthday is a liminal moment because it marks a separation from what you were last year and what you are this year. It's the change moment is the liminal state. So we are in the liminal state right now, right? So we say in this liminal state, made for journeying. So this liminal state, made for journeying. In this state of beginning, you are formed into what's next. You are forming what is next. You are holding within the self the opportunity to grow a context from your own being, to be the self that will inform the world and its new dawning. So this is a totally different way of thinking about how we understand our world. That we have always understood our world through the context of where we came from, through history books, through family, right, through the stories that we have. Every family has the stories that you tell about yourselves, that we tell about ourselves, that say, we are this. We are the family that does Thanksgiving on, this way, and we are the family that is the hardworking family, or we are the family that's the giving family, or we are the family that, like, there's a story there that we use to define ourselves. And they're saying, that now it's not going to be given to us anymore. It's always been something that we've taken on from our context and from our surroundings and from our culture and our background. Like, there's a ton of stuff about identity that we have taken from culture that's been given to us. And they're saying, no more. That's not going to work anymore. What's going forward is going to be that it comes from within us. And so this idea that we have to understand who we are becomes more and more important, because we start to project and become more aware that we create our understanding through ourselves, to be the self that will inform the world and its new dawning. Okay. What hold you in this power of understanding? What hold you to draw forward? What will now be present in your mind as the earth herself is turning? How will you guide your focus for this journey? And so I think this is so important, is they're challenging us. They're asking us, what hold you in this power of understanding? So how are we going to do this? They're really putting it at our doorstep. They're saying, this is on us. Like, who are we going to be, and how are we going to form what is evolving out of this liminal state? What are we going to keep, and what are we going to discard? So they're saying, bring forward what calls you now from the heart space. So let it come from here, not here. We need to get out of the head, out of our expectations. How many times have they been telling us that? We need to get out of our expectations, get out of the head, and get into the heart. Because there are no expectations in the heart. The heart just perceives and receives, and it's a flow. The heart is a flow, right? It doesn't constrain. So they said we need to get into the heart space. Bring forward what calls you now from the heart space. Draw into your bodies the truth of who you are, your presence. Make this known to one another. Super hugely important. Make this known to each other. Lean into the fruition of yourselves. Let this be the template that rises to guide humanity. So this is how we do it. We have to be as much as we can. And I know you guys are working so hard on this, but I think this is the work that needs to be done. Like you talk about, like, how can I help to bring in the new humanity? It is this. It is do everything you can right now to focus your energies on bringing more of your higher self into your body, of trying to clear yourself, free up energy in yourself so that you can hold more of your higher power. And that is it. How can you free up energy? And there's a bunch of ways to do it. You can free up energy in your system, because we talked about this, I think, last week, that it's like, and some wonderful person, thank you, put in the comments on YouTube that there is a scientific principle behind this, that about a closed energy system, and how energy, unless energy flows in from the outside and is added into it, that the closed energy system is just basically energy dies and then is repurposed. And they put this whole thing in there, which was like, oh, I loved it. I should have kept it and shared it with you guys here. But anyways, I always love all the comments you guys make. You guys are brilliant. You're always adding stuff to the conversation, which I think is so important to be shared. And sharing your own experience, which again is what they're saying here, is share ourselves with each other. But so this idea, to get back to this, how do we bring in more of our higher selves, is, and this has been my experience 100%, and it has been confirmed by the angels and all of their channeling, and I think it is so critical now to understand at this liminal state that we are in, how do we bring in more light, more of our higher selves? To free up energy, we can do our healing. Yes, absolutely, because those heavy emotions, especially the guilt, the shame, those are draining of our energy. They drain us. To hold that in your field lowers your vibration. We know that. But then also on top of that is the simple things that you can do. Like one of the things that came up in our retreat was about releasing clutter, getting rid of the extra stuff that you have in your house. Stuff that you bring with, that you're carrying with you in your field, drains your energy. Another thing they've talked about is expectations, like things that you are wishing for that you don't have, things that you think you should have that haven't arrived yet. I know that a lot of us are really focused on like manifesting, but we have to manifest from a place of openness. And if we close things down so concretely, that becomes an expectation that pulls our focus out of the present now. And that is draining we need to do everything we can to hold as much energy in the body right now as we possibly can. Because the more energy you hold, naturally, your higher self will flow in. If the energy is available, your higher self will flow in. It just needs the energy, that your body needs to support it. And so doing everything we can. Another thing is health. So how much healthier can you get? What can you do to your daily habits in terms of what you're eating and the exercise that you're getting to just bring in more health to your body? All of these things. So anyways, it's all of the levels. It's mental, emotional, and think about who you're supporting yourself with. Like, do you have community supporting you? Do you have friendships? And what can you do to expand that so you feel supported? Because that's going to add energy. So this thing they talk about giving and receiving, huge. Like there's no mistake to the fact. Like when they did that, there's a Blue Zones study that was done by Dan, and his last name is, I'm blanking on, but he was a National Geographic photographer who did this thing on the Blue Zones. Which communities in our world, live longest? And one of them, the longest living females in the world, they are, the main thing that sustains them is that they form this community. They form them in small groups of 6 at birth. So they have this group of 6 women who've been together since birth, and now they're all well over 100. And they meet every week, they get together, and they've been together their entire lives. And they say it's the community that supports them, that gives them that energy, right? So all of these things are things to think of. Think about your own life. What can you do right now to bring in energy? And the more you bring in energy, the more of that higher self you're going to be able to draw in right now. And that is essential as we are trying to form what is humanity, right? That is definitely a way that you as a light worker can do more. We can all do more. We can all hold more light. Yeah. So, okay. So total, like, got on my little thing there, but I just think it's super important and it's something really accessible that we can do, something that we actionable, the step that we can take right now that's really tangible and can be really physical. So, yeah, so go clean out your closet, go clean out your drawers. What can you get rid of? And clear up and free up your energy. All right. So bring forward what calls you now from the heart space, right? From the heart space. And I love this part, make this known to one another. So that's that sharing part that they talked about. Lean into the fruition of yourselves. Let this be the template that rises to guide humanity. Love it. And you're saying, awesome, Anne. So glad you feel that way. It needs you, the present incumbent. Yeah, definitely. It needs us. Like we right now have to hold the space for what's coming in. And you're saying, Brandy's saying, thank you so much for this bit here. It feels so applicable to me in my current state. I'm so glad, Brandy. Thank you. All right. Be not that one who conspires to level down into the muck of yesteryear. Be instead that one who strives to discern through their own understanding a new template that dawns for the yearning of the betterment of humanity, who reaches into the beyond next moment and distills their own joyful purpose to bring into each other their heart's pattern of learning. There's so much in every paragraph here that this is, I love that they're talking about our discernment. So they're saying, be not that one who conspires to level down into the muck of yesteryear. So let go, right? Let go of what was. Be instead that one who strives to discern. So this is about, and discerning takes effort. It takes focus and attention for us to use our discernment. And where does that come from? From tuning into the soul, to feel truth. Like we were just talking about earlier, we feel truth because it lands with that deep inner knowing. We feel it as wisdom. It feels like, like you feel truth when it comes because you knew it already. That's how you know. That's how discernment works. Discernment works by feeling as if somewhere deep down in your body, you knew it already. And that's how you know it's true, right? So use that guide inside you. That instead the one who strives to discern through their own understanding a new template that dawns for the yearning of the betterment of humanity. So somewhere inside of each of us, we know, like we came in understanding that we were going to be going through this process of upleveling. So we know where we're headed. And that's the template we're trying to find. And the way we find it is through our discernment of truth when we feel it. So that's the guidance we're getting. Follow your heart, yes, but follow your heart to truth. Right? Feel for it. Move towards it. Right? The yearning of the betterment of humanity, who reaches into the beyond next moment and distills their own joyful purpose. So there you go, is feeling and following your joy. And we've talked about that a lot too. And that is really my way of living these days, is every decision I make, I try to feel which one feels more joyful. What do I want to do? It's never what I should do. It is what feels joyful. And it's been my guide through this last couple years, and I tell you, it is the easiest way to live. It is the most fun way to create a life that sustains me. So yeah, feel into your own joyful purpose, because our purpose is to be joyful, right? That's one of our purposes, is to be joyful. Bring into each other's hearts the pattern of learning. Love it. All right, next paragraph. How to dawn a new civilization for humanity, built upon the spores of love that transfer between one another. And I love that. Spores are like, think about like pollen, how it drifts and how it floats and it lands somewhere else that is receiving, and how that is such a gentle process, right? That it is not a forcing or a preaching. It is an open sharing where you release your spores of joy and let them float and be found and land upon anyone else who is receptive. And it becomes this diffusion, this lovely diffusion of your heart, of your truth, right? Built upon the spores of love that transfer between one another, built upon the conveyance of your offering, of your gifting. So here it is, we're sharing our gifts, right? What is it that we come to give to one another? Of what is given unto you before entering, and what you are carrying to share with others. It's all about that. Moving into the age of Aquarius, we are meant to be sharing with one another. Right? To build this, we wish to bring you into harmony with yourselves as you are opening. So this is how we're trying to do it. Bring us into harmony internally. We're trying to find that balance between the masculine and feminine inside of us, but also any ways, like we were just talking about, that we can bring in more of our higher selves into harmony with our higher self, right? To let this liminal state do its business of ridding you of the flavors of what you have become used to. and to let the self feel in this new open state the readiness, the preparation, the instilling in your mind space of new potential. So it's really opening. And how many times does the angels talk about how their role is to just a breath in of possibility, so that we will just for a second lift our head up from what we're doing, from our being engrossed in life, and just, oh wow, here's a new path, a new passage, something I hadn't thought about. It's that opening us up for just a second is all they're trying to do, instilling in your mind space a new potential, to recognize where you are as humanity, to see this state as one of grace, as one of doing, in the action of becoming that which will be. So they want us to know where we are, that we are in a liminal state, that we are, like for those of you who feel a lot of anxiety right now, especially like a lot of anxiety came up around this last eclipse. Anxiety comes from two magical things. We were talking about this on the retreat as well. There's two things that have to happen for you to feel anxious and fearful. Number one, it is that there has to be a sense of responsibility that you're supposed to be doing something. And number two is you have to feel like you don't know what that something is. That if you feel like you are responsible, or that you have to do something, that there's some action you're supposed to be taking, like I'm supposed to be getting ready, or I'm supposed to be helping, or I'm supposed to be solving, whatever it is, and you're like, but I don't know what that is. That is the surefire recipe for fear and anxiety. And so they're trying to get us into the awareness that the thing that we're supposed to be doing is being. Is being in this liminal state, the awareness of where we are. We're in this state of unraveling. And to not think that we need to do it, it is just happening. It's happening. Like, you don't have to do it. It's happening around you all over the place. And you just have to be and let the unraveling happen. Like, it's going to happen for us, right? So it's occurring. So release that anxiety that comes from, what do I need to be doing? I need to be doing something. What is it? It's a terrible space to be in. The example I used when we were talking about it at the retreat is imagine that there was an asteroid that was going to hit the planet, and it was going to hit the planet in 2 hours, and there was nothing you could do. And feel into the body and feel, would that make you feel anxious or fearful? It doesn't, because there's nothing you can do, right? It's going to hit the planet. Like, all you can really do is like just spend time with the people you love, or do whatever it is that you would do in your last 2 hours, right? That's all you can do. So there's no anxiety. There's no fear. The only fear comes from, there's an asteroid hitting next year. So what can you do to prepare, right? That's where the fear comes, because you have no idea what you could do to prepare for an asteroid. That's where the fear comes in. So release that. Just be in this liminal state. That's what they're trying to tell us. We are in this state. Accept it, allow it, be in it, and let the new beingness come through, right? Yeah. And you're saying, truth rings my bells. I love that. Yeah, that's a great way to say it. Absolutely. That is what it feels like. Yeah. And hello from New York. Hello. Thank you for joining us. You're saying great to be here. I'm really glad you're here. And you're saying Don't Look Up is a clever film. Yeah, it is. You're right. I like that one. That is one that the humor is still relevant. All right. Where was I? So how to dawn a new civilization for humanity built upon the spores of love. Oh, we just did that one. Okay. To recognize where you are as humanity, that we are in a liminal state. Here we go. And now moving on. Okay, next paragraph. Let the unwinding happen. Recognized in this friction is created the potent force for upleveling humanity. There is the action of undoing which powers the new now. It must present a force of reaction, which is then utilized for the conquering of the old self, the dwindling of that old habit, and the instilling in your breast a hopeful state, a loving state, a caring state for one another. So this really gets to that thing we were talking about a closed energy system, that we have to destroy what was to release the energy so that it can then be fueled into holding this new state. And this is super important, is they're saying here a hopeful state, a loving state, right? That there is the action of the undoing which powers the new now, right? It must present a force of reaction which is then utilized for the conquering of the old self, the dwindling of the old habit, and the instilling in your breast a hopeful state. So there is action, there's energy required in us releasing, that it's almost like combustion itself consumes a bit of the energy. The combustion of what was takes a little bit of the juice. So we're gonna lose something in the healing. That's gonna be used. The energy will be used in our system as it goes into the healing, and that gets then transmuted and changed as we work through it into creating space for us to hold this higher vibration. So the higher vibration takes more energy. And I can definitely attest to this, that as I have stretched myself along my journey, moving into doing more channeling, and the periods where I've stretched and taken on more, that I have been at times physically exhausted and needed to free up energy in my body so that I could do it. So holding that higher state, it takes energy. So we have to let go of the old. We have to go through this combustion in order to free up the energy so that we have it, so that energy can be freed for this, to hold the higher state, right? It's energy consumptive. This ascension is, it takes energy, and we have to get that energy from somewhere, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Yeah. All right. And so they're saying, let it happen. So we need to be in this allowing state, which they've been talking to us a lot too. This energy transfer, it is a process we are working. We are watching. We are unearthing for yourself. So here's what they're doing. They're telling us what the guidance that we're getting, the helping that we're getting. They are helping with the energy transfer. They say it is a process we are working. So as energy is being destroyed in the unraveling, and the unraveling is being totally guided by the angels. I've had dreams about that where they've shown me them guiding, almost like a car driving a wave, like a tidal wave through different cities, washing and moving things. So I've seen that they are behind all of it. But they're saying this energy transfer, it is a process we are working. So they are then moving whatever is lost in destruction, is then they are moving that energy into the process of this upleveling, right? So we are watching, we are unearthing for yourselves. So they're helping us, they're guiding us, they're sort of like providing the stuff for our growth, is what they're saying. They're giving us the energy that we need to do this. And they're making sure it's right there where we need it, right? They're putting it right in front of us. So almost like little breadcrumbs we have to follow. This juncture for humanity represents a transfer of your energy from that which was to which you were beholden in the bodies, in the histories and comprehension, in the solar plexus of your figure, of all things you have known. So they're saying this is kind of everywhere in our field, in our bodies, in our memories, everywhere. This transfer of energy of the pleasing of the self by matching and comparing to your history. And this is important because this speaks to our reluctance to let it go, because it feels good to have a knowing. It feels good to be able to predict the future based on what we've known in the past. It feels comforting. It feels like there's fewer surprises. It takes less work to do something that you already know how to do. And going into something that's totally uncharted can feel exhausting. It can feel like you got to be up for that. You got to feel ready for that, And so that's why we have that desire to stay with what we knew. And it takes a decision, a choice for us to let it go. Yeah. And we're going on this paragraph. They say, and instead, with the unraveling of all this, the creation of a new sort, a new history to unfold forward. I love that. They're sort of like, we think of history as always being backwards, but they're using history almost like it's a story, and a story that unfolds forward rather than backward. So it's redefining what history is. History is something we define in the making, and it unfolds forward in front of us, right? A new template for life built upon love. No more strife, only peaceful transfer of energy from one power to another, from one soul who beckons to another who is receptive. Back to that idea of the spores that float, that it's like an effusive giving, irradiating of your energy, of your bliss, of your offering, and letting that just land to whoever receives it. And a peaceful transfer of power, of energy, that there's no forcing, there's no need for anyone to be like you are, there's no need to prove that you are right? All of that, like that stuff about the ways in which people are, all of the, what's the word I'm looking for, where people are against each other right now, all of the contrast that's available in the world right now, that just melts away. And instead, everybody can just be. And as you sort of float your spores out there, you find those who are receptive in this really natural process. And this gets to this idea of peace on earth, of getting to a place of peace, where we don't have that striving and that strife that we experience now, where like it makes me think of, like the 100 Years' War, where it's like a whole war fought so that one person, one group could prove that their way of believing what God is, what source is, that they could prove that their way was more right than the other people's, you know what I mean? And all that just goes away. And instead we are diffusing our ideas, diffusing who we are, our essence, right? In this really lovely way. So, which is super cool. The emptying of energy and refocusing of yourselves. This is what you are allowing. So this is the liminal state that we are in. This potent space that you are in, acknowledge this. It is an emptiness, a sense of floating, a sense of not knowing the next beginning. That can be unnerving, but we need to learn, like, this is a good thing. This is a beautiful thing that we are in, the not knowing, because it means we're releasing what was and opening to the next thing. They say, a new template is unfolding. Embrace this. Allow the self your discovery, for there is no instruction. There is no reason given. So this is huge. In other words, they're saying this hasn't been done before, right? There's no rule book. There's no way this has to happen, that we get to create it, that through our journey, we are creating it. And so that's why the discerning is so important, that we have to be present and aware and to figure it out as we go and let our hearts be the guide. And so that can be a little uncomfortable, but that is so appropriate, because all this has been about letting go of our karmic past. And our karmic past is about, like, we have these anchor points that we are tied to, that we have to free ourselves of. The Dharmic path, which is what we are moving to, is about having none of that. Having like, the dream symbol of the Dharmic path is being in a on a roller coaster with no track, where you're on a crazy roller coaster ride where there's like a big gap in the track, where you're like going along on the tracks, and then all of a sudden there's this big gap and you have to like jump across to the other side. Like, there's no track. And that's the whole point of Dharmic living, that there is no track. And it can be uncomfortable for us because we are not accustomed to it. But it is the new way of living that we're trying to move into. And I think that is exactly what they're saying here, right? It is an emptiness, a sense of floating, a sense of not knowing the next beginning. That's Dharmic. That's Dharma. That's exactly what it is. A new template is unfolding. Embrace this. So it's a really good thing. In the moments when, so Dharma, being on the Dharmic path is something that like, it's not like you get on the path and you're just like on it forever. Yay, this is great. Like, it's a thing that you can like move in and out of over and over again. And I have experienced that a ton, where there are times when I can hold it, and I'll tell you, those moments are just like magic unfolds. And then there's times when I'm not, and I can feel it when my vibration is a little lower, and it can have to do with a billion things, why you sort of like are not in it. You're in it and then not in it. And it just happens. And I think that right now, that in and not in process is happening for a lot of people, because this is also a super crunchy time for healing. So you really can't be in the depth of your healing when you're really going through the muck, and also be on the Dharmic path. Like, it's basically when you're going through the muck and you're processing, your energy is going to drop, and you know that. Or when you go through a loss, your energy is going to drop, and you're going to fall off the Dharmic path for a little bit. But then you go through the healing and you get back on it again. So it's just important to know that to not judge yourself if you feel yourself achieving it and then losing it, because it's just kind of how it works. And then eventually, more and more and more, we get on it permanently. But I think so important to acknowledge here that basically what they're describing, what we're moving to, this whole thing, they're saying we're getting off the karmic path. All of us, all of humanity is trying to move onto the Dharmic path, the Dharmic way of living. And this is very, very, very different for us. So they're saying there is no instruction. There is no reason given, right? There is no masterful method by which you must conjoin to the new reality. Like, how are you going to do this? It's totally up to us. Right? It is the selves who are dawning from within. And I think that's part of what Dharmic is. It's letting yourself define, letting yourself be the flow, letting it flow through you. That's what Dharma is. It's like not following the rules, not being given instructions and following it. Like, that's karma. So this whole thing, by its very nature, we have to get accustomed to this. Right? Yeah. Mike is saying learning how to hold that change. Yeah, it is about learning, and it is flowing with the process of holding that change, like allowing yourself to go through the process of upleveling gradually and going through a cyclical process of healing a little higher, right? And just letting that be and not judging the self. Yeah. And you're saying, let's see, I missed some of your comments up here. You say, I like the idea of thinking of myself as a human diffuser. I do too. It's a nice feeling, isn't it? You say, woo, I was lazy and selfish in my self-care, happier to be floating. Yeah. You're saying a human diffuser is awesome to me. Yeah, I know. I think that too. All right. Okay, here we go. Next paragraph. The emptying. Did I do this part already? Let's see. Yeah, I already read that part. Okay. I think the emptying of energy and refocusing yourselves, this is what you are allowing. This potent space that you are in, acknowledge this. It is an emptiness. Yeah, a sense of floating. So, okay, moving on. There is no masterful method by which you will conjoin to the new reality. It is the selves who are dawning from within. It is the selves who are instrumental in the creating. Therefore, be and allow yourselves. So that is really, it's up to us. And that is, again, I think that is, it's really funny. Like before I came in and started sharing this with you guys, I don't know if I really understood that as much. But in talking it through with you guys, that's really clear that this is, the truth of this is happening on a bunch of different layers. And the fact that if we can allow ourselves to just be and to allow, that is the path to Dharma, which is what we are all trying to achieve. So, and that is the template that they're talking about, the template that sort of is the new way we're trying to live, right? Okay, last paragraph here. They say, this mastery, this dawning, let it be yourselves who do the defining through the joyful experience of self-loving. It is this we are informing your own selves, creating harmony within, the balance of your light, the truth of who you are. This you are capturing to let this transfer onto the next new now that is coming. We love you. So yeah, so this mastery, this dawning, let it be yourselves who do the defining through the joyful experience of self-loving. And so that is, again, another way to free up energy in yourself, is the more that you can feel that joyful experience of self-loving, that is you not being in judgment of yourself. And think about how much energy, how negative that feeling is of self-judgment. So the more we have that internal harmony, that joyful experience of self-loving, the more we are opening to our higher selves and allowing more of that to come through, right? More allowing. It is this we are informing your own selves, creating harmony within. So they're informing our own selves of our higher self, right? Creating harmony within, harmony between us and our higher selves, the balance of your light, the truth of who you are. Like this is what we're trying to hold. This you are capturing to let this transfer on to the next new now that is coming. So we're trying to radiate this higher state of awareness, this new way of being and understanding ourselves, to let that be what is creating our next reality. Yeah. A bunch of really awesome nuggets in there. I hope you guys agree. I thought that was amazing. I loved it. And the more we talked through it, the more I got out of it too. So that was super cool. Dawn says, I'm dawning from within. Dawn, you are always dawning. That is awesome. All right, you guys, tons of love to you. Thank you so much for joining today. I really appreciate it. And I will continue to transcribe some of those sessions from the retreat and see if there are bits that I can share here with you guys to give you a flavor of what happened. We had some incredible sessions, some beautiful, beautiful things came through, and healings, lots of healing. So really, really awesome. All right, thank you. Thank you guys so much for joining. Lots of love to you, and I will see you guys next Friday live. Bye, you guys.